Okay, you guys, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm going to talk today about setting up templates. I think we're going to specifically focus on the home study template because that's something that everybody does, but certainly what I talk about is applicable to treatment plans or if you want a list of communications for your clients or really any data that you have retrieved in the site and you need to pull out or have printed, that can be done through templates. So I'm going to show a couple things of how to certainly set it up, some of the things that might feel a little tricky about setting up the templates, and then we'll just leave it open to talking because there's so many things that I think can be done that we can explore. So really our agenda is just, I'm going to introduce you to templates and then we'll build a template. We'll talk about the difference between building a template off the case versus one built, well, let's say, and using multi-record templates or building a template off a multi-record table like the home study template that we'll do. And then we'll talk about formatting and then leave it open to discussion that can either be on uh just leave your questions open. So making the so Heather's asking if this was about making the family portal pages printable. Sorry if that's what the email said. I am going to focus on the template and I think the templates, but the templates could be used for making family portal pages printable as well. You would use them the same. You're basically pulling data that's on forms onto a template. And so those templates could be, I actually don't know if they can be linked onto, onto the family portal pages itself. You can certainly print data internally from information that's on a family portal. And really, okay, awesome. So I'm just going to jump right on into a template and just really show you what a template is to make sure that you know what it is that we're working on. So it's really printed templates. I'm going to drop this down here. Okay, so this is an example of the home study template that we've got in the master site. And it's pulling information that really is coming from the application form. And it's probably pulling some information from a narrative form that I'll show you in here as well. And then we'll build this out together. So information like their address, their contacts, overviews of their motivation to adopt, whatever really you want to pull on. Information like their siblings. These are examples here of reports that are pulled onto the template. So these prospective applicants may have 0 siblings rather, or they may have 10 siblings. And so it's pulling, through a report, the differences in that, whatever they have entered about themselves. It could definitely pull information from an autobiography if you had that. However, you also might just want to have some narrative fields for your team members to enter information that they've read and through their interviews and sort of their thoughts around different components like the family's background and their criminal history, their education. Like you may not want to pull exactly what the family said, but maybe just a summary. And so you might have those forms accessible to the family through the home study record that you're working on. I'm sorry. Sorry, let me pull that back. The information accessible to your home study writer and then a narrative form so that they can summarize the information rather than displaying it all here. So I've got information really being pulled from the application. And I guess I'm curious how this relates with what you guys are pulling onto your home study? Are you really, is your team just summarizing information, or are you wanting on the application, on the home study, to actually present information that um, is, and like this is really detailed information about the family? Let's go through here. So, for example, I've got linked on my home study record the application form. So we can go in and review that. And so again, this is information that if things are, if you're using SAM, well, I think the application form is sort of a standard thing that folks are using that gets a lot of demographic information into the system. So this is set up into multiple parts. So all of this, the family entered themselves. Your team's really not doing this sort of demographic information. It is broken up, into several different parts. And then this is a view showing all of the parts pulled together. Their marriages, whether or not any other people that live in the home, things that you're looking to have entered. All of that's pulled onto, oops, I should go back. I have a back page to my home study there, onto that template. I keep talking about narrative. I think that there's narrative fields for each home study. So keeping these fields on the home study table so that they're all relative to that specific home study. And then you can come in and enter. So these are some fields that are pulled from maybe autobiography questionnaires that are presented to the family, but they might also be information that your home study writer is gathering from the interviews. So this is really, at this point, quite personal, or personal is not the right word, but information that is specific to your agency and the way that your team is just wanting to prompt users about these questions. So, Teresa, you're saying you would want listed information as well as a narrative. Okay, thank you for answering that question for me. So, yeah, so you would want to show who the biological parents are of each applicant, and you might want some narrative information about that as well, if I understand that correct. And so, under here, these might be questions that you're presenting again through the autobiography, but then maybe your team is actually going to come in and summarize it, or change it around so that it's appropriate to send in the home study. So these are just fields that you'll build into the site of spots that you want to prompt your home study worker to enter. And I think what this is going to mean for folks is that I guess I hear a lot of times that it's the home study writers are often contracted, especially if they're somewhat out of region, is offering them an opportunity to come into SAM and teaching them not about the whole thing. We just need to teach them about the home study record itself, having auto actions that send the home study worker not to this page to see all the home studies, but to this particular page where they're listed as the home study writer, and giving them the links that they need to see right there. So your home study writers that are, again, just contracted with you, just don't need to know about everything and how everything works. They just really need to be taken here and enter the information that's relevant for them. So let's get on to actually building a home study. And so to do this, because the home study in our master site is actually built, I'm going to actually go into a trial site and start like you would as if this doesn't exist. I do actually think a home study template exists in most sites, but over years they may be removed. So let's start it from scratch. What's always going to be important is where to build this this template off of, any of your templates, and it needs to be fairly specific. So again, the tables and fields in SAM are labeled based upon different processes that you're working on. So again, our focus right now is the home study. So I'm going to use the home study table a lot. And I'm going to base this off the home study table, but I may from that point pull in data that's on applicant one or applicant two details table. I might pull the family table, the case table, and some information from some I think they're kind of called family details, like about their housing and things like that. That's going to be important. I talk about tables and fields literally on every call, because in SAM today is really important to kind of know where things are. So the table structure, you can mirror this based off tables that are included on the forms that you want to pull your tables or your template setup, or again, being really specific to what are you doing in the site right then. If you want to pull things on, well, I'm going to back up here because I'm thinking like if I want to pull a template that I built this week for someone was all of a client's communication records. And if I create a template based off of off the communications table, right, getting really specific, it's going to show me one communication, and it's going to only be available on that specific communication record. So if I want to pull a list of all communications or all case notes that were entered or recorded last month, as an example, I actually will want to pull a report of communications onto a template that's based off the case. So let's actually try and talk about both. So I'm going to start with the home study, and then I'm going to go and pull some reports onto case-based templates. So I'll start with the template designer. And because this is going to be specific to the home study, I'm going to choose that table. There are options for you to find other templates that exist. So these are all the templates that are based off the home study. And there actually is a template. I didn't realize that here. Here it's due to the naming for it, but there is a template that I built, but I am going to just start this from scratch in this trial site. But these filters here allow you to find templates, so you don't have to look through a really long list. Okay. View all will get you back to the default view. Well, we're going to create a new template and we'll label it. And this is I'm going to call this, printed home study. And if it is an email, you've got a subject line, and you might always want to create a memo for yourself, because what you know today to be true a year or 2, 3 years from now, it may not ring a bell quite as easily. I'm going to choose the main entity, which is based off the family. And then I could choose for sure one of these. If I would garner that most of your templates are going to either be based off the case or the very specific multi-record table. So in this situation, I may have 3 home studies over a course of a couple years while working with this particular family. So I'm going to make it specific to this home study, or to the home study, so that I can have 3 different printouts, and they're easily accessible and they make sense. I'll show you where to place them so that you can see them, because they're not accessible always. You can't put the link for the printed template just anywhere. It has to be on the home study record itself. But now I might also add other tables so that I can pull other fields, like on the case. I don't really need adoptive child preference, I don't think, at this point, but I'll pull more specific information about their details. And I might want to pull some housing and financial information. I may pull this as well. Okay, so different tables. And on a form, I will show you how to, while this is waiting, actually, I'm going to show you how to find out what tables are being used on a form. So if I went to my application form, they're under advanced options, really down here. There's show table titles. And this allows the system to show us not only the field title, but the table title that associates. So on this particular part 1, we're pulling a lot of family fields, but we do have applicant 1 details. So we would need to get that if we wanted that information to be displayed on the home study. Okay, so this is an easy way to see all the tables specific and to the fields that you're pulling also. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the template, and you'll put things like images for your logo, hyperlinks. I think that's pretty clear on the sidebar. Those things I think are easy. I don't even know if I have my logo anywhere near here. Let's see, do I want to pull? There it is. Okay, and then you might title it, right? So this is our home study for you could do your organization name, agency, and you might put here written by. And at this point, I'm going to pull a field because who it's written by is going to vary depending on, of course, who wrote that home study. So we'll insert a field. And always we're going to be presented with what table are we pulling from and then what field. So getting familiar with this, there may be times where you're on a template and the table you need is not there. In those situations, you can scroll in, click this add tables to template and choose other fields. Okay. So here I'll pull in the home study writer or the home study worker's name. And so again, whoever that's written by, it will be done or be entered on their name. Can format this, right? Might put it here. I noticed, Sam, this template designer is it could be a little finicky. So try not to get, if you get frustrated with it, call us. We will help you work it out and figure out how best to organize this the page so that you can move forward with it. You're welcome to always send us the link. This is the template I'm working on and I can't get this to be formatted well. We're happy to help with that because it's a little finicky. It's always funny going from a web page designer into a print, like systems. That's what all Adobe does, right? Is just that specific. So we're sort of pulling from a tool that, at least right now, that it just, you got to play with it a little bit. I also recommend that you save your work, save it often. When you get to a good stopping point, save that information. Okay, so one thing, it starts off with a very trim formatting toolbar here. We'll show you over here under advanced options, you can show an advanced toolbar and it gives you a ton more tools. I honestly haven't played with everything. If you have a home study template that you want to pull from that's coming from a Word is a software program as well, and it has HTML behind it that we don't really see when we're interacting with Word. So it will interact with this. It sometimes works beautifully and sometimes doesn't work beautifully to paste. So there is this option when you paste from Word. Pasting with the toolbar button or context menu. So, okay, here I can press Control V is what the system is telling me to do, or right click and paste. You can also press Control Shift V, and I believe on Macs it would be like Command Shift V, and that sort of erases any formatting also. Sometimes when you click this, I don't know if anybody here has used that, but I think it used to pop up a box. So what I don't know at this moment is if like the Chrome browser is like no longer compatible with that button, that may be what's happening. Okay, other things that I do use a lot though are tables. And tables are going to allow you to put in the columns so that you can have, parent one and parent two information stacked together, or side by side rather. The other thing I might put in is a horizontal line a lot, and I also put in page breaks for printing. So I know on our last call, Teresa had asked about enforcing a way to make the system or the printed document come into like a maximum of 15 pages. There's not really a good way to do that except for within the formatting, sort of trimming it down and not using page breaks because you might have one and you might have 20 siblings entered for the two parents. It could really expand the length of the document considerably. So, so not using that is going to help consolidate your information. All right. Did anybody have a question? I'm going to add a table. So I just clicked the button and then I will choose here some of the properties that align for this. So I tend to go with 2 columns. There certainly may be room for a third column. For example, having parent 1 kind of basic information, parent 2, and then where their address and where they live kind of out on 3. I'm sure you will find other uses for having more columns. I tend to stick to 2. My width, I think, play with this, but I tend to be around 800 or 900 for the width of a portrait size piece of paper. I prefer not having a border. These are where preferences come in, and I tend to align to the left. Let's see. That should do it. Put in here. So, for example, we might put in prospective adoptive parent 1. And I use hotkeys a lot, which makes my use of the system a lot quicker. So I here press shift and did I press home? I think I did press home so that it copied everything. And I'm pressing Control C to copy it, and I'll stick it here and Control V to paste it in. So now I don't have to retype it out. It saves a lot of keystrokes, and I guess you get very used to it after a while. However, it's not something that everybody knows or makes use of. So hopefully we'll teach some things today. The other thing that we're going to do here is start to add in fields, right? So I am going to pull in first. And actually what I think I will do is come down here. I'm going to make some space, and I'm going to show you this option here. So under advanced options, insert all fields from form. So this option here allows me to choose one field at a time. So I could put in, like I showed you here, the home study worker. But what I might want to pull is all of the fields from maybe the cover page, or I think they're it only lets us pull specifically from the home study. So it actually isn't going to be real useful for us in this situation, because we're on the home study table. If I had built this off the case, the homes, how does it look? I would be able to pull more forms, so it'd be a little bit more useful in that particular this particular function here. But when you are here, Sam doesn't know, right here, Sam won't know which home study record to choose from. And so it will give you, if you have 3 home studies, it will give you 3 options, and you'll need to be diligent in making sure you are choosing the right one, which may or may not be tricky. I think it is confusing a little bit to folks. I get questions on that when that happens. Although I guess it's been fewer and fewer. So over here, I'm going to still go over here and I'm going to build a little bit more on here. Family, and we're going to choose, we can pull our full name. You might also use these where it's name one, first, last. Same thing here. Over here, name. Okay, and over there, I didn't click the save button. Again, I'm pressing Control Enter to save that through. So each field you'll want to pull down. Another thing that I want to talk to you about to make sure that you know how to do is inserting reports. So when you insert a field, there is this option for Insert Template Report. And that's going to, oops, Control Z. Go. There we go. Okay. I get two different options here. So a template report is really going to pull a report. If I go back over here, internally for you, it's going to look like this, just a little line. When you print the actual template, though, it'll pull out here's the siblings, each of the columns that are on that report. And it really, I think by default looks like this. You can change the formatting. So we'll talk about that too. Okay. So I can choose from here what report do I want. Reports like a lot of other like forms too. I think having a structure so that you can find that information easier later is helpful. So we might put in here the academic history. Okay. So I'll pull that in and then I'm going to show you. We talked last month about how to build reports. I'm going to show you how to look at this report. And the one thing that I'm going to do is stick this over to the left. So you'll copy in here. Everything is beyond the colon is the template name. And if I copy it and go to settings and then report builder, I can find that template and we can make changes to it. So I'm using just the browser's find function to pull that in. And here are the columns that I have on. These are mirroring, I would hope, the questions that we're asking on the application form or wherever we are gathering this information from the family. And that could be, you know, again, from the application form, it could be that your team isn't ready for the application form and you're going in, I think it's under case details now and under parent one, and you're adding academic history. So a lot of this, if you're coming from a PDF form, it will take a bit of time for your team to do that data entry, which again is why I think this is going to be, especially for the home study, most beneficial for agencies who have the application form input. One thing that I see here that we're not pulling on the template is applicant one or applicant two, this field. And what we're doing instead is using that field to filter. Okay, so I'm filtering so that this particular report is only pulling in applicant one. I have another one. I just created new from this one, and it's filtered on applicant two so that I can pull the proper one and put that in the spot that I need on the report. I'm going to go ahead and save this and then show you here so that we'll just make sure that you're following along how to access this template now and what we built so far. So under advanced options, right at the moment, I could print or email a home study template, and here's my template here. So take a second for it to generate, and then it'll present the information that I have entered so far on this record. So there are some academic institutions for that parent one. And we can see we don't have any title over this. Things like that are going to be necessary. But you can keep this page open and right click return to the form, and you could build. Oh, love that. So it's my favorite thing. Let me go back then, and I could right click. Oops, right clicking is going to take me right there as well. So let's go here, right click, open there. Now I can print and keep my family record open and have my printed document right here as well. Any changes that I make to my home study template are immediate. So if I put in here, applicant 1 academic history and save, this is going to immediately change our printed view. Okay. Let's see. The links over here, insert form link. This is going to be more for internal templates. When you're sending emails to your team, like if you were sending your home study writer to this page, this form specifically, you'd have a template based off the home study. When the home study worker's name is entered, we might send an email to that home study worker and take them to this page specifically so they know how to get here. That's what that link is for. The other one down here, insert document link. This is going to be more generally external facing for clients that you might want to say, hey, we're about to start your home study. Here's a couple of forms that we want to links to PDF documents, for example, that we want you to be aware of for some additional information. My understanding right now, these become public links. They're out there. They could be Googled. They can certainly be saved by your family. So if you update your document, that original, the new templates will be, if you update your template and you have updated the document link, you will, new families will get, this new document link. However, families that may have saved it will still be able to access that document. That's how that works today. They could certainly be sent a new email. Hey, we've updated our documents. That's the only way that that public link ever goes away at this point in time. So if you just remove it, that link actually stays in existence in SAM. I want to actually build a template, home study template, but this time I want to put it off the case because I do think that this would be helpful. Oops, I don't want that. I want that and I want to show you what the difference is and where these things can be linked. So here, now something that you can do, especially if you are building home study templates or templates in general for different programs, some of your stuff and your information is going to be the same, right? So actually all of this I would put on my other template, right? I want it to be exactly the same every time. I think I may have a problem here with this home study. If you get something like this, I didn't actually add the home study table. So I need to do that. I can go here, tables on template, and I'm going to choose the home study latest. And that error goes away and you can breathe easier. Okay, but what I wanted to show here is under advanced options, insert all fields from form. From the homes, from a template that's based off the case, we have more options for us. So we might actually want to pull in the basic info. So I could use a table format, and I'll show you both ways. And I might use the public form title. So if any of these fields have been used on a public form and are just listed differently, I might want that. I'm going to show you the two ways that this displays out. So this shows up really similarly to the layout of your form. And it's got fields that we may or may not need, so we can always highlight over these and delete them. This is where I find a little bit of challenge because in this table structure, these are tables. So I have right clicked over here, right click this row. I might delete that row and do it again, right? To get remove space. Nope, that deletes the whole thing. I press Control Z because obviously I don't want it to all disappear. I want to keep some of it. We might put this field. I like this option because we can take this and take it out of here, and I might put the case program right here. Maybe Control Shift V. And so I've got the case program and the agency. I'm a little bit thinking that that field coming over like that, if I it's wanting to stay in the, and you do have to get the little types of parentheses. I don't know what those are called. Let's see, there we go. I got it there that time without the table being wrapped around so that it doesn't change my formatting. And so, I mean, I will be very honest, this is a little bit of fiddling for sure. However, this is just like fiddling in a Word document, except for, you're more familiar with Word than this. The icons and stuff stay fairly consistent with other, like the icons that you're familiar with, but they're different. So it's a little bit of play, touch and go with this. We might then take these and right click. Can we highlight all, delete all those rows? Okay, so now we're pulling in information a little bit different. So I might say, I don't really need this. Okay, and I might want to pull this, Control X, stick this down at the bottom. Okay. So now I want to show you from the family's record. Let's try and find this template to see where it is. So if I print from the home study, the very specific home study record that we're working on, the home study template, actually, I do get that template. And here it is. So that may actually be the better way to go about it, because what we really want is to be able to copy a lot of fields at the same time. Okay. I think that's easiest, even if you don't like this format, right? Especially for Teresa, right? This is going to make, in this particular ordering, very, very long form that isn't going to be good for us. But what I think is really helpful is now we can say, okay, I want my my table in here. To get it. Nope, I think I messed that up. Put my 900 table and put this as 0 and left and okay. Now I've got my new table and I can copy this information. Let's say it goes here, Control Z. Or I might copy these fields and put them here, right? So I at least don't have to paste everything the same. I'm sorry, pick one by one, rather, field at a time. I can really pull all this information and then I can get rid of the other. So I think this is an easier way. If I copy, leave it there, and pull in, the information that I want to be displayed. I could even exit out, right? Cut it rather than copy it so that I know what I took and what I haven't yet taken, right? And then when I'm done with this, just eliminate this form, this part of the form from the template. So I think it's easier than clicking here, choosing the table, finding the field next time around. You have to do that quite a bit. I actually am really happy that that showed up. Yeah. I'm really happy that it showed up on this area, this here. from the home study. I didn't actually realize that a case-based table. And what I'm thinking is it is showing up because I pulled the home study table onto it. Because what you can see when you come over here is there's actually not a lot of templates here, but we actually have a lot of templates in the site. So there, well, this is, I do like Sam. It does tell you only templates that contain the table of home study. That's what we're pulling. So let me see here. One thing that I like seeing on client sites is the actual template linked on the sidebar. So instead of under advanced options, right, we want less clicks for our users and we want it to be really right here. As an administrator, I can actually add a template to the sidebar of a form. So I'm going to go into the sidebar links manager and we'll see which of the templates we can actually pull. Why was that? Did I not see that? I don't see it. Maybe it's not. It says it's enabled. Okay. Well, I'm not understanding why that says it's there and then we don't actually see it. Let's try another one. Okay, so there are icons. There's an icon for printing. And here, instead of choosing a form, which is the default, we'll choose a template. And I think this may be our home study template. So this is actually great. I think Steve is on and he can attest to sometimes it's difficult to find the right template when it is on and about a specific sub table like home study or background check or communications. It actually doesn't pull on the cover page. That we'll look at here is where are all the places that we can put this template. So I'm going to get that one out of here because that was never there. Like it's not displayed right here. And here's our print template. And so we can click there. So instead of clicking advanced options, templates, choosing the template, we take out 2 or 3 steps by just having that print button there. And here, did I save this? Not yet. Now I've saved it. And it, again, I can move up from there or review my changes too. Let's check here. If I go back to the cover page, what I find a lot of times people are like, well, I really want it to be everything on the cover page. And sometimes the system really needs you to be on a more specific form. But what we will try is home study template. Print. We'll talk about this. If this works, this is great. Of course it's going to work. So interesting. Now I'll have to really dig deep for when does it not work because it's working. The one thing that this will do is show us the current home study template. So for example, to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to go to the home studies. We've got 2. You can see it pulled from the home study, the current one, because it's got the home study worker's name in it. On this one, there is no home study worker name. So there may be times where you have multiple home study records, and I can get very specific if I come to the details page. If I'm pulling from the cover page, I'm really only pulling the current, whatever current means. So let's talk about that just so we're clear there too. I'm trying to think where I want to go to get there. I'll go from here. You can always see from the table. So this has got the home study record here, the subform. And this at the very top of forms, it tells you what kind of form it is and from what table is it based off of. So I'm going to jump in here. And at the bottom, if there is a current latest record setup, it's linked as a sibling table. So I can click on this link and it will tell me how it's organized. So in this situation, the current record sorting is by home study packet sent date. So that's like the moment in time when we're starting that home study record and we're sending a communication to the family to say, hey, we're ready to start this home study. Here's how. So it's showing us the most recent. Let me go in here. Actually, I'm going to let that go. You can, actually, let me go back there since I was there. You can change it by going here and choosing a different date. Over here, if you find for some reason that your current latest records are acting funny, they very well might. This criteria that was here didn't even make any sense. Not really sure where in the system that's pulling from, but we've seen that a little bit with agencies doing kind of unique things. So we're not sure at the moment if it's pulled from some filters from a form, something like that, but cleaning it up, going back and refreshing this seems to eliminate the issue. But you can change this if you wanted by the enter date, right? I don't love, talked about this. I don't always love the entered date being used for fields because I think sometimes your teams will do historical data entry. And then you may be working on something that was done 5 years ago, but it's the last entered one. But it's pulling really old data as your current one. So I prefer for you to be more specific with a field that your team is entering on the record. And of course, that means that like we have to come up with something for your historical data. If this is a new process and you've got a field for a date like this home study packet sent date, you might, or a welcome packet or starter kit or whatever your terminology is, that period in time when you're communicating to the family as we're ready to start this process, that may not have been recorded X years ago. So we have to make some adjustments for that. Totally different topic. I'm going to go back to what we're talking about on the templates. We've got about 10 minutes more of this call. I'm curious let me clean up my stuff here. Of course, we didn't get a ton of the home study built. We can continue, and just seeing it over and over again, I think will be helpful. So I can do that for sure. Let's see if I'm going to talk about like editing your table. If you right click within your table, you can get back to table properties and make some adjustments. So if I really wonder if, it's locking me in. Okay. So these grayed out means it's locked in. I can't actually change that. I can play with the style. If you know HTML, you can adjust that. You sort of need to have HTML. There are font settings, some HTML knowledge, which again, if you want to change things, we're happy to help. In the font settings here, all of your templates will start off with this unless you change it to, you like sans serif and you want everything to be 12. For Teresa, I don't know if there's a specific font size that you have to have, but it might be helpful to reduce some of your font size to get into that 15 page.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me here. Let's see, jump in here. If I change that, you can see that the formatting has already changed. And this is it. So making that change automatically changes everything inside of this as well. Okay. Let's look over here. Edit this template again. Let me show you this part. Under advanced options, there is also open random record. So this is really helpful to give you a perspective of what you're building, what it looks like. So instead of going specifically to a client site and and finding where it's going to be, you can save that part for later, build your template first, and then you can see it. And it's a lot empty because this particular record doesn't have anything. So it's not super helpful. So you'll, Well, see, the other thing, I mean, this gets a little funny, and if you feel like this entity type ID, this is 294, so you could change that to, who is this? 288? 288. And now we'll look at, actually, I guess that wasn't the right entity ID. Was I on? I feel like that should be the entity ID. So just skip that. Do not do what I just told you. But I think that should have changed to our family ID. Entity type 7. Sorry about that. Let's see. What would be helpful for me to show you now? Would it be helpful to look more at, actually, let's go back to font settings. Over here, there's a couple other, edit default settings for all templates, edit template report styles. So when I click in here, this is where it is helpful to have some HTML knowledge. It's also not something that you haven't necessarily seen before either. So there's a couple of things going on here. You can have different styles in here and you can choose what style. I think most of the time keeping them the same. I did try this the other day, my data row style, like trimming it down to a smaller font size, right? So border spacing is there, padding within, I think the spacing in between each of your values is at least 5 pixels. And that being said, it's 5 pixels top, bottom, left, and right also. And this is giving us that a border at the top so that we can see the difference. We might say that we want that also at like, oops, not at 0, but like at 1, so it's a little thinner. That will change. I did get an error when I did this in my sites, something, so I'm not sure, and I realized that it takes a little while. So if you have issue with it and you want to do this, let me know. I did notice though over here, where were we? Is this the one that I changed? That was this home study template. Even the font here, when I changed the font settings here, it did affect the report. So you may not actually need to go into that other spot. I didn't talk about images and hyperlinks. I think that that's fairly self-explanatory. Let's see if I can get this done in the next 5 minutes. So let's say that you really dislike the look of the template, the formatting here, right? I don't know, you can't see that super well. Let me go here real quick and add some space and save that so that we can get that up at the top. Refresh. Say you don't like this report style layout. You can create a multi-record template. So I'm going to go and create a new template, and this is going to be template, and right, like I like to make sure that I can find it. Home study, and this is academic history. Okay, so that same information type. Now I'm making it very specific. I am going to base it off a multi-record table being the family details academic history, and I don't need anything else because this is very specific to that piece of information. And maybe I want, let's see, I can pull all fields from a form. So I'll grab all of those fields, and it's pulling, this is really what it looks like on the application form. And maybe I can say, I don't really need, delete those cells. I don't need that. But now it would have for every record, provide details of your academic history. So I don't think that we would do that, but there are a lot of instances where you don't want it to look like a report. So let me go over to, that's the template. Is this our template? Let's go here. Oops, come here. See, that's the printed home study. I actually still want to get on this one, so I'm going to edit this template. I'm going to pull that new multi-record section on. So instead of being a template report, I'm going to pull a multi-record template. And this is this academic history. I'm going to give it some space so that we can see and press save. We'll go find my family. And print our template. And here you can see that it's the same data. I actually don't have it filtered quite yet on this, which we can go do, I believe, from that template. But you can see, in this situation, it doesn't make sense to keep those words, but the same information is displayed. It's just displayed in a way that we might like to see better. So this works really well for like communications. I would say particularly for communications where you might have several different prompts that are all narrative and they sort of need to be stacked rather than seeing kind of a very narrow, long column. Curious if anybody has used this. I think the only person maybe online today that I noticed would have been Steve. And he's jumped off. Curious if anybody sees another use for this in particular. I'm trying to think. Let's see. I think the communications is best. It's again, I think in situations where you've got really lengthy narrative and you could have lots of it. It might also be, I would say for Teresa, it's not going to save a lot of space in that way, unless you organize that template to do so. Okay. To be a little tighter fit. It seems to be giving more room though for, again, longer valued fields. These seem to work really easily, but it's again displaying really the same information. Let's go over here to this. Right here, I think is where you'll put in the filter to say, I only want it for applicant 1. Oh, this is how you sort it. So this would be like by year of completion. And then over here, we'll add applicant 1. And now if I go back to my print template, it's only pulling the exact same information as here. Okay. And that's what I have for you today. I know we didn't build it all because it can take a little bit of time to pull, but pulling from the reports, those templated reports, super important to know. And from pulling from specific fields, I appreciate staying with me while I even looked at the difference between the case and building it off the home study. And honestly, for a home study, your challenge is only going to come from if you want to pull historical data and how your home study latest is displayed. So we talked a lot about those things. Next week, we will talk about putting this together. So if you have a template that you're working on and can't quite get it to come to fruition, next week is our week to actually work together on that, and we can do it on the following week as well. So if you can join, please do next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time also. This webinar will go online under our webinars links, and certainly you can reach out to us for help.